Welcome you. Today we're plunging into a really powerful topic, how your mind can literally shape your body and health.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Our guide for this deep dive is the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, specifically his book El Placebo Eres Tu, which translates to You Are the Placebo.
Right.
We've pulled out the core ideas to show you, well, just how much your thoughts and beliefs can impact your physical and emotional well-being. Maybe more than you think.
Definitely more than most people realize.
And get this, just to kick us off, in one depression study, 38% of people in the placebo group, they felt better.
Wow, 38%, that's significant.
And not just subjectively. Their actual brain activity changed. So, okay, let's unpack what this means for you.
Well, starting right there, the placebo effect itself is kind of the foundation.
Explain that a bit more.
It's basically accepting and believing in a treatment, even if it's, a sham, like a sugar pill.
Okay.
And because of that belief, you experience real physiological changes. Your body actually responds.
But Dr. Dispenza isn't really focused on, like, tricking people with sugar pills in hospitals, is he?
No, not at all. He's very clear. The book isn't about the ethics of using placebos in medicine. It's about something much more personal.
Which is?
It's about your own built-in ability, your capacity to create these kinds of changes within yourself using your own mind.
Right, so it's not about an external fake cure, it's internal. It's you.
Exactly. You harnessing your own potential.
And that leads into this really key idea he talks about, self-directed neuroplasticity, SDN.
SDN, yeah, it sounds jargony, maybe.
A little technical, yeah.
But the core idea is simple, really. It means you are actively shaping the connections in your brain all the time.
Through my thoughts, my experiences.
Through your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your focus. You're like the architect of your own neural pathways. Your brain isn't static, it's constantly rewiring.
Okay, I get that. But
Yeah.
self-directed implies I can control it.
That's the key point Dispenza makes. It's not just happening to you passively. You can intentionally direct that rewiring process. He actually thinks this idea is going to be fundamental to understanding personal transformation in the future.
So I have more control over my own brain wiring than I probably thought.
That's the message. And it's not just abstract thoughts floating around. He stresses the very real impact of our emotions.
Both good and bad.
Both good and bad, the negative, stressful ones. He explains they can actually lead to a kind of addiction.
Addiction to stress.
Yeah, an addiction to the stress hormones themselves, cortisol, adrenaline. He talks about set points for these hormones, like your body's thermostat.
Okay.
If your thoughts or beliefs constantly keep that stress thermostat cranked high, your body gets used to it. It expects it. And when it doesn't get it, or if you try to relax, you can genuinely feel off, unwell.
Because the body is craving that usual hit of stress chemicals.
Precisely. It's similar to how we understand other kinds of dependencies or cravings. Your body has become conditioned.
Wow. That makes you think about how deep these emotional habits run. And for Dr. Dispenza, this isn't just theory, right? He lived it.
He absolutely did. His personal story is incredibly compelling. He had a cycling accident, broke 6 vertebrae in his spine.
6. That's severe.
Very severe. The prognosis wasn't good. Doctors recommended surgery with potentially debilitating outcomes.
But he didn't go that route.
No. He chose a different path. He dedicated himself really intensely to a mental process, visualization, focused thought, directing his own healing.
Just using his mind.
Just using his mind.
Yeah.
And he healed, fully recovered against the odds.
That's remarkable. A testament to his own principles.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just a fluke, something only he could do. He sees similar things happen with people in his workshops.
So others can learn this too.
Yes. He reports that over time, participants who commit to daily meditation, focusing inward, disconnecting from their usual stress, they don't just feel better.
They get actual physical changes.
Measurable improvements, health markers changing, blood work normalizing, things like that. By going inward, they seem to tap into the same mechanisms he used.
So the potential is already there inside us.
He emphasizes that. We all have the biological and neurological machinery for this kind of change. You, me, everyone listening. The potential is innate.
Which brings us to some of these almost unbelievable stories. Mind over body in action. The Mr. Right case. That one's just wild.
It really is. It was documented back in 1957. Mr. Wright had advanced lymphoma, big tumors, didn't look good.
Right.
Then he heard about this experimental drug, Kribiosin, and he got incredibly hopeful, pinned everything on it.
He believed it would work.
Totally believed. He got an injection, and within days, his tumors, which were described as the size of oranges, had reportedly shrunk dramatically. He was essentially declared cancer-free.
A miracle, right?
Unbelievable. But
There's a twist.
a big one. Reports started coming out that Kribiosin was actually worthless, a hoax.
Oh, no. And what happened to Mr. Wright?
His belief shattered, and the tumors came right back. He relapsed.
Wow. So the effect was tied entirely to his belief.
It seems so. And his doctor, a Dr. West, suspected this. So he tried something. Well, Unconventional.
What did he do?
He told Wright, don't believe those negative reports. The first batch of Krebbiazin was weak, but I've got a new, super potent version just for you.
Yeah, really?
Nope. He injected Wright with nothing but distilled water, pure placebo.
Okay.
And again, the tumors vanished. Wright went home apparently healthy and happy. His belief was restored.
That's incredible. Twice.
Yeah.
But it didn't last.
Tragically, no. Eventually, the definitive news broke. American Medical Association reports Krebbiazin was proven useless. Wright heard this. His faith was completely destroyed.
And he relapsed again.
And passed away shortly after. It's a powerful, if sad, illustration. His body responded profoundly twice, just based on belief.
It makes you ask, like you said, could he have sustained it if he learned to cultivate that inner state himself?
That's the million-dollar question Dispenza implicitly poses. Can we generate that healing state from within without needing the external trigger, the fake pill or injection?
Yeah. And it makes you question other things, too, like actual surgeries. That knee surgery study by Dr. Mosley?
Oh, yeah. Another classic example, really eye-opening. He studied patients with osteoarthritis in the knee.
Or the groups?
3 groups. One got standard arthroscopic surgery, debridement, basically cleaning out the joint. Another group got lavage, flushing it out.
Okay, actual procedures.
Right. But the third group, they got sham surgery.
Sham. Like they pretended.
Exactly. Made the incisions, simulated the sounds and motions of surgery, but didn't actually do anything inside the knee joint, then stitched them up.
And the results. Did the real surgery work better?
That's the kicker. All 3 groups reported similar levels of improvement in pain and function, including the sham group.
No way. So the ones who just thought they had surgery got better just as much?
Pretty much. It strongly suggests that the belief in the intervention, the expectation of healing, the ritual of the surgery itself played a huge role, maybe even the primary role for some.
So for anyone listening, your expectation about a treatment, a therapy, it could actually shape how well it works for you.
That seems to be a big part of it. It's quite profound when you think about it.
It really is. And then there's that chemotherapy study about expecting nausea.
Right. That one found the biggest predictor of whether patients felt nauseous from chemo wasn't necessarily the drug itself, but whether they expected to feel sick.
How strong was the effect?
Well, about 40% of patients who were told they'd likely feel nausea actually felt sick before they even got the drug.
Before. Just from the anticipation.
Seems like it. And even 13% who weren't sure what to expect felt ill beforehand. But here's the interesting part. None of the patients who didn't anticipate nausea felt sick before the treatment.
It really highlights how expectation can create a physical reality.
It does. Your body prepares for what your mind expects.
And then you get into these even more extreme examples. Snake handling in religious sects, ingesting poison.
Yeah, those are harder to explain conventionally. People in certain Appalachian churches handle venomous snakes, drink strychnine as part of their faith rituals.
And they don't die or get seriously ill.
Often they don't. Not always, there are accidents, but far less often than you'd expect from handling deadly snakes or poisons. The belief system seems to offer some kind of protection.
How? Is it just overriding the normal fear response or something deeper?
That's the question, isn't it? Is it intense focus, a different physiological state induced by faith? Or look at hysterical strength, people lifting cars off loved ones in emergencies.
Right, seemingly impossible feats of strength.
Or walking on hot coals, even hyalophagia, the desire to eat glass in some conditions. These things push the boundaries of what we think is physically possible based solely on a mental state or belief.
It challenges our whole model of mind-body separation.
Completely. And that unsettling story about Vanders and the voodoo curse?
Oh yeah, tell us about that one.
It's a reported case where a man became convinced he was cursed by a voodoo practitioner. He got progressively sicker, wasted away, seemed near death. Doctors couldn't find a physical cause.
So it was purely psychological or psychosomatic.
It appeared that way. Apparently, the doctor eventually tricked the man into believing the curse had been removed, and he rapidly recovered.
Wow. So the belief nearly killed him, and reversing the belief saved him.
That's the implication. It really forces you to consider. If belief can cause such decline, even death, what about the opposite? Can a powerful belief, a shift in inner state, actually choose life, even in the face of serious illness?
These examples are powerful. They really set the stage for asking, okay, how does this work? What's the science behind thought's impact on the physical body?
Right. So Dr. Dispenza explains it starts with the thought-feeling loop. You have a thought, it creates a feeling or emotion.
Okay.
If you keep thinking the same thoughts, you keep generating the same feelings over and over.
Like getting stuck in a cycle. Worrying thoughts lead to anxious feelings, which lead to more worrying thoughts.
Exactly. And when this loop repeats often enough, your body essentially becomes conditioned to be that mind state. It learns to anticipate and even, as we mentioned, crave those familiar emotional states.
The emotional addiction idea again.
Precisely. Especially with negative states, the body gets used to the rush of stress hormones. But here's the flip side, the empowering part.
Yes.
New thoughts can create new feelings. And crucially, new thoughts fire new neural circuits in your brain. They build new connections.
Neuroplasticity again.
Yes. And this is where it gets really interesting at the biological level. Firing new neural networks leads to the production of new chemicals, specifically proteins.
Proteins. How do they connect to change?
Well, proteins are the workhorses of the body. They build structures, carry messages, make things happen. And these specific proteins, generated by new thought patterns, can travel to the cell nucleus and interact with your DNA.
Interact with DNA, changing my genes.
Not changing the fundamental code, but influencing which genes are switched on or off, gene expression. Genes make proteins. So if you change which genes are active, you change the proteins being produced, which can then change the structure and function of your body. So repeated new thinking can literally lead to physical, biological upgrades or changes.
That's huge. It links directly to epigenetics, doesn't it?
Exactly. Epigenetics, meaning above the gene, is the science of how your environment signals the gene. And that environment includes your internal environment, your thoughts, feelings, beliefs.
So it's not just diet or toxins, it's my mental state too.
Yes. One key mechanism is DNA methylation. Think of it like sticking a chemical post-it note onto a gene, telling it to be quiet or active.
No.
Your experiences, and importantly, your perception of those experiences, can change these epigenetic markers.
Meaning, I'm not just doomed by my genes.
Not at all. You have the ability to influence which parts of your genetic blueprint are actually read and expressed. You're actively participating in your genetic destiny, you could say.
He uses identical twins to show this, right? How they diverge over time.
Yes, it's a perfect illustration. Identical twins start with the exact same DNA. If genes were everything, they should develop the same conditions at the same rate.
But they often do.
Right. Studies show that while young twins living together have very similar epigenetic patterns, older twins, especially those with different lifestyles, different stresses, different experiences, their epigenetic patterns become significantly different.
Because their lives have signaled their genes differently.
Exactly. One study found the difference in gene expression quadrupled between 50-year-old twins compared to 3-year-old twins. Same DNA, different epigenetic expression due to life. It shows how much your choices matter over time.
And it's not just minor tweaks. That Swedish exercise study, the changes were massive, weren't they?
Huge. They took sedentary, slightly overweight guys, had them exercise moderately, just twice a week for 6 months.
Yeah.
They epigenetically altered around 7,000 genes.
7,000. Out of how many?
Roughly 25,000 total genes. So nearly 30% of their genome showed changes in expression just from adding some exercise.
Wow. That shows how powerfully lifestyle impacts us at a genetic level.
Absolutely. And these changes can potentially even influence future generations. It really underscores the long-term impact of our daily habits and thoughts.
Which brings us back to stress. If positive thoughts can signal genes for health, chronic stress must do the opposite.
Precisely. Chronic stress keeps you locked in that fight-or-flight mode, sympathetic nervous system overdrive.
Which is meant for short bursts, right?
Yeah,
Escaping a predator.
Exactly. Not for dealing with traffic jams or work deadlines day after day. When that system is constantly on, energy gets diverted away from long-term building and repair projects in the body.
Like what?
Growth, cell maintenance, immune function, digestion, tissue regeneration, all the things crucial for health and healing get put on the back burner because the body thinks it's in immediate danger.
So the cells become sort of selfish, focused only on immediate survival.
That's a good way to put it. Communication between cells breaks down. The immune system weakens. The endocrine system gets out of whack. It's a state designed for emergency, not for thriving. Constantly feeling stressed literally hinders your body's ability to heal itself.
So living in survival prevents thriving and healing. But the hopeful part is, these genetic changes, these shifts, they can happen fast.
Yes, that's what's so exciting. Epigenetic changes can happen much more quickly than evolutionary genetic changes. This helps explain why the placebo effect can sometimes create physical changes almost instantly.
Like in the workshops Dispenza runs.
Exactly. He and his team measure significant health improvements, changes in heart rate variability, brain coherence, even immune markers sometimes after just one focused meditation session.
Just from thought.
From intentionally changing their internal state through focused thought and elevated emotion, they're essentially signaling new genes in new ways right there in the moment. It shows the immediate potential you have within you.
Which leads perfectly into this idea of mental rehearsal, practicing in your mind.
Yeah, the power of imagination to create real-world results. It sounds almost like fantasy, but the examples are compelling.
Like the prisoner of war who played golf in his head.
Right. Major James Nesmith, held captive in Vietnam for years, mentally played a perfect round of golf on his home course every single day, detailed visualization.
And when he got out,
First time back on that course, he shot the best game of his life, supposedly close to what he'd rehearsed mentally, having not physically touched a club in years.
incredible. And Anatoly Sharansky, the chess player.
Similar story. Soviet dissident, spent years in prison, much of it in solitary, kept his mind sharp by playing intricate chess games against himself entirely in his head.
And later,
After his release, he famously played and even defeated world champion Garry Kasparov in a simultaneous exhibition match. His mental practice kept his skills incredibly sharp.
and athletes do this all the time, right? Visualization.
Top athletes rely on it. Aaron Rodgers visualizing plays, Tiger Woods mentally rehearsing his swing and the ball's flight, even someone like Jim Carrey writing himself that check for $10 million for acting services rendered years before he made it big.
Manifesting in a way.
Yeah.
Through focused belief and visualization.
Exactly. For you listening, these stories aren't just about famous people. They illustrate the potential of your imagination to shape your reality.
And it's not just anecdotal. There are studies.
Oh, yes. Studies on mental practice. One had people imagine doing finger exercises, just thinking about moving their finger against resistance.
And their finger got stronger.
Significantly. They gained 35% strength in that finger muscle, compared to 53% in the group who actually did the physical exercise. The control group showed no change.
So just thinking about it produced over half the strength gain of actually doing it.
Roughly, yeah. Another study used imagining weightlifting. People who vividly imagine lifting heavy weights showed greater muscle activation than those imagining lifting light weights.
Measurable physical effects from thought alone.
Demonstrably so. It seems the brain activates many of the same neural circuits during vivid imagination as during actual physical action. It doesn't always perfectly distinguish.
So for you listening, just imagining doing something positive can start to create the physical groundwork for it.
That's the idea. And this might connect to how placebos work, especially in things like the fake surgery, the role of stem cells.
Stem cells, the body's repair crew.
Kind of. They're undifferentiated cells, like blank slates. They can become almost any type of cell. The body needs muscle, bone, nerve, skin, immune cells.
To repair damage.
Exactly. Dispenza suggests that the belief and expectation generated by a placebo, like the sham surgery, might actually signal these stem cells to migrate to the area and differentiate into the needed tissue type, creating real healing.
So the belief could be directing the body's own regenerative resources.
It's a plausible mechanism for how profound healing can occur seemingly out of nowhere. Your body has this amazing repair kit, and your mind might hold the instructions.
So going back to Mr. Right one last time, it really hammers home the point. The Krebiosin did nothing. His belief was the active ingredient.
He was the placebo. His internal state, generated by a belief, was the medicine.
And cultivating positive emotions helps this whole process. Gratitude, compassion.
Definitely. Studies show these elevated emotions can actually calm down the fear center in the brain, the amygdala. When you reduce fear and stress, you shift your body out of survival mode.
Into what? Repair mode, growth mode.
Into a state more open to healing, creativity, connection. You become more confident, more trusting, more open to possibility, which feeds back into your ability to believe in positive change.
Okay, so belief is key.
Yeah.
But how susceptible are we to these beliefs, this idea of suggestibility?
Suggestibility is crucial here. Dr. Dispenza uses a really striking hypnosis experiment with a man named Ivan Santiago to illustrate it.
What happened?
Under deep hypnosis, Santiago was told he was in a hot tub full of warm water, but he was actually submerged up to his neck in ice water.
Ice water.
He showed no signs of being cold, no shivering, normal heart rate, relaxed expression. His belief completely overrode the physical reality.
That's hard to believe.
And then later, still under hypnosis, they created a scenario where he believed he had to shoot someone dangerous. He acted it out, fully believing it, but had total amnesia about it afterwards until the hypnotist specifically suggested he remember.
It shows how deeply suggestion can penetrate, affecting both body and memory.
Profoundly. Suggestibility, Dispenza explains, really boils down to three things: acceptance, belief, and surrender.
Okay, break those down.
Acceptance means you fully accept the idea or potential you're focusing on. Belief is having unwavering faith in it. And surrender means letting go of your analytical mind, stopping the constant questioning and doubting, and just trusting the process.
The more you have of those three, the more suggestible you are to the desired change.
Exactly. The better your results are likely to be.
That analytical mind, the ego,
Yeah.
it often gets in the way, doesn't it? Especially when we're stressed.
Absolutely. Stress hormones put the analytical mind on high alert. Survival mode prioritizes analyzing known threats, relying on past experiences. It makes you focus on the external world and less open to new internal possibilities or trusting something unknown.
So stress makes you less suggestible to positive interchange.
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly scanning for danger, questioning everything. Quieting that analytical mind is a huge step towards becoming more suggestible to the reality you want to create.
In all those repeated experiences, the thought-feeling loops we talked about, they create subconscious programs that run automatically.
Right. You condition your body to be the mind associated with those programs. Fear, anxiety, victimhood. Whatever the pattern is, it becomes biologically ingrained, running below conscious awareness.
So how do we get past the analytical gatekeeper to reprogram those subconscious beliefs?
That's where techniques like hypnosis and especially meditation come in. They are designed to help you bypass the conscious critical mind and access the subconscious operating system.
Meditation is a tool to increase suggestibility to ourselves.
Precisely. The goal in Dispenza's approach to meditation isn't just relaxation. It's about moving your awareness beyond the external world, the environment, distractions, beyond your body, the physical sensations, aches, itches, and beyond time, the worries about the past or future.
To get to what?
To get to the present moment, focused purely on your internal world of thought and feeling. To quiet the thinking neocortex and access the subconscious brain where those programs are stored, meditation is your pathway inward.
But that's hard, isn't it? Especially if you're living in that survival mode, constantly reacting.
It can be very challenging initially. When you're stressed, your senses are dialed way up. The external world feels overwhelmingly real. Noise, light, physical sensations dominate your attention.
Making it hard to believe your internal thoughts are more real or powerful.
Exactly. You might even be subconsciously addicted to the energy of those stress hormones. So the idea of sitting quietly and focusing inward can feel counterintuitive or even uncomfortable. Overcoming that attachment to the external physical world is a major hurdle for many people.
So where do these beliefs and perceptions even start? The ones running in the subconscious?
Many are formed early in life through experiences, what we're told, cultural conditioning, and often we're not even consciously aware of them. Yet, as Dispenza points out, they can profoundly shape our outcomes.
Like those studies on stereotypes affecting test performance.
Exactly. The study where women read fake info about men being genetically better at math and then performed worse, or white students performing worse after being told Asians typically scored higher.
They subconsciously accepted the limiting belief.
And their performance reflected it. It shows how easily external suggestions, even false ones, can become internalized beliefs that affect our abilities. You need to be aware of the beliefs you're operating under.
And it's not just beliefs about things, but our perception of past events that matters too.
Hugely. How you perceive your past, the meaning you attach to experiences, positive or negative, directly impacts your current subconscious state of being, your health, your mood, everything.
He gives that powerful example of the Cambodian women.
Yes, women who witnessed horrific atrocities during the Khmer Rouge regime. Years later, living safely in the U.S., many developed psychosomatic blindness.
Blindness caused by trauma, not physical damage to the eyes.
Correct. The intense emotional trauma literally rewired their brains, creating lasting changes in their neurochemistry and altering their perception of reality to the point where they couldn't see. Past trauma became present reality.
It shows how deeply an experience can change your entire state of being neurologically, chemically.
It absolutely can, and sometimes just returning to a familiar environment can trigger those old states.
Like the Parkinson's patients.
Yeah, he mentions cases where patients improved on a placebo treatment while in a clinical setting, but when they went back home to the familiar environment where they were a person with Parkinson's, their symptoms returned.
Because the environment triggered the old identity, the old state of being.
It seems so. The power of association. Re-identifying with the environment. Yeah, Dr. Dispenza definitely goes there. He brings in concepts from quantum physics to provide a potential framework for how mind can influence matter.
What's the core idea?
Well, at the subatomic level, matter isn't solid stuff like we perceive it. It's mostly empty space, filled with energy fields and information. Atoms are like 99.999% empty space.
Right, mostly probability clouds.
Exactly. At that quantum level, particles don't exist in a definite place until they're observed. They exist as waves of potential probability.
And observation. That's where consciousness comes in.
That's the connection he makes. The act of observation, of focusing your consciousness, your attention, and intention seems to play a role in collapsing that wave of potential into a specific particle, a specific reality.
So my awareness isn't just passively watching. It's actively participating in creating what I experience.
That's the implication from a quantum perspective. He also talks about frequency and vibration. Everything vibrates. Slower frequencies appear more solid, like matter. Faster frequencies are less dense, more like energy.
And our thoughts and emotions have frequencies too.
He suggests they do. That your state of being transmits an energetic signature. And your consciousness, through focused intention and elevated emotion, can interact with the quantum field, this infinite field of possibilities to attract or create a desired reality.
It's definitely a paradigm shift from classical physics.
Absolutely. It requires thinking differently about the nature of reality and our role within it.
But it opens the door to explaining some of these incredible transformation stories he shares. People healing from serious conditions.
Yes, the personal stories are really the heart of it. They show what might be possible, like Lori.
Tell us about Lori.
She had a condition causing extremely fragile bones, multiple fractures, constant pain, basically lived in fear of breaking. Hmm. Through dedicated meditation over 2 years, focusing on wholeness, strength, changing her core beliefs and emotional state.
She healed.
She reported significant improvement, fewer fractures, living a much more active life. She changed her internal state, and her physical reality seemed to follow.
Amazing. And Candace with Hashimoto's.
Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune condition. She realized she was living in constant survival mode, driven by stress. Through meditation, she consciously worked on shifting her reactions, cultivating gratitude, moving from victimhood to creation.
And her health improved.
She reported her thyroid antibodies returned to normal levels. She essentially healed herself by changing her state of being.
And Joanne with MS script, that one's particularly striking.
Progressive multiple sclerosis. She was losing mobility, relying on canes, facing a future in a wheelchair. She committed fiercely to meditation, mentally rehearsing, walking, running, dancing, redefining herself not as an MS patient, but as a healthy, whole person.
Mentally rehearsing movement.
Like the athletes.
Exactly. And she experienced profound shifts. He describes one meditation session where observers saw her legs, previously still, start moving involuntarily, tracing the movements she was rehearsing in her mind. She regained significant mobility.
Rapid physical change during the meditation itself. Yes. These stories, for you listening, aren't guarantees, but they are powerful illustrations of what might be possible when you truly commit to changing your inner world.
It all circles back to this core idea. You can become your own placebo.
That's the essence of it. By consistently focusing your attention on a desired future, a desired state of health, and emotionally embracing it as if it's already real.
Feeling the feelings of wholeness, of gratitude now?
Yes. You are sending new signals to your body, new signals to your genes. Repeated meditation done correctly can lead to those epigenetic changes we talked about.
And those inner changes eventually manifest outwardly.
That's the theory and the reported experience. The inner change precedes the outer manifestation.
And he backs this up with brain scans from the workshops, right? Tangible data. Yes, the EEG brain scan evidence is a big part of his work now. They measure brainwave activity before, during, and after meditation.
What do they typically see? Well, initially, someone new to meditation might show a lot of high beta brainwaves. That's indicative of stress, an overactive analytical mind, lots of effort. The brain looks quite incoherent, unbalanced.
Trying too hard, maybe.
Possibly. But with practice, as people learn to quiet their mind, go inward, and sustain elevated emotions, the patterns shift. They start producing more coherent alpha and theta waves.
Which indicate?
Alpha is associated with relaxation, creativity. Theta is even deeper, associated with that state between waking and sleeping, heightened suggestibility, access to the subconscious. The brain looks much more balanced and orderly.
So the brain physically changes its activity pattern with meditation.
Measurably so. For you listening, this isn't just subjective feeling, it's objective data showing the mind changing the brain.
He shared specific cases, like Michelle with Parkinson's. What did her scans show?
Her baseline scan showed lower than normal energy and significant incoherence, typical patterns sometimes seen with Parkinson's, after consistent meditation practice.
What changed?
Her follow-up scans showed much more energy, more coherence, more balance between the hemispheres. Beta activity normalized. She could access calmer alpha states more easily, and this correlated with a reported reduction in her physical symptoms.
Wow. The brain changes mirrored the physical improvement.
It suggests a direct link. The mental practice potentially helped rewire the brain in a healthier way.
And John, the one with the traumatic injury.
Similar pattern. Initial scans showed underactivity, incoherence, likely related to his injury's impact. After meditation.
Improvement.
Increased energy, much better balance and coherence across the brain. And again, this aligned with reports of his improved physical function and well-being. It shows how mental practice might support recovery from physical trauma, too.
And then Bonnie and Genevieve. Their experiences sounded even more profound.
They did. Bonnie's EEG was remarkable. It showed moments of deep delta waves, usually seen only in deep sleep, alongside intense gamma or zeta activity in the frontal lobe.
What does that mean?
Delta suggests a profound connection, maybe to that unified field Dispenza talks about. The high-frequency frontal activity suggests a very vivid, internally generated experience, almost like a highly conscious dream state where she felt she was actively creating.
Making thoughts real in her mind.
That's how it was interpreted. And Genevieve consistently generated patterns associated with profound feelings of love, oneness, connection during her meditations. Her brain showed a stable, transformed state.
So these aren't just fleeting moments, but potentially sustainable shifts in brain function and subjective experience.
That's what the data suggests is possible. These scans, for you, are perhaps the most direct evidence that thought alone can and does alter biology.
It comes back to that idea of detaching from the known, predictable reality.
Yes. Stepping out of your familiar identity, your routine problems, your conditioned emotional states, becoming pure consciousness, open to the unknown.
Like that workshop in Sydney he mentioned, where people focused on the unknown and unexpected things happened.
Exactly. When you take your attention off the predictable material world and place it on the infinite potential of the quantum field, you open the door for possibilities you couldn't have conceived of before.
So meditation is the key practice for achieving this, for changing beliefs and perceptions.
It's presented as the primary tool, yes,
Hmm.
because it's designed specifically to help you bypass that analytical mind, quiet the internal chatter, and access the subconscious operating system where those deep-seated beliefs and programs reside.
He offers guided meditations too, right? To help people through it.
Yes, guided meditations can be very helpful, especially initially, to structure the process.
And that instruction about becoming aware of the space around you. What's that for?
That's a technique to help you shift your awareness away from your physical body. By focusing on the space your body occupies, the space around you, the vastness, you start to dissolve the boundary of the physical self
Moving beyond the body to become awareness.
to become awareness in the present moment, letting go of your identity tied to your body, your environment, your past or future. You arrive in the generous present moment, as he calls it, the doorway to the quantum field of possibilities. This is a practical technique for you to try.
But it means letting go of the familiar self. That sounds uncomfortable.
It absolutely can be. Changing deeply ingrained habits of thought and feeling is often uncomfortable. Your body and mind are used to the old way. Dispenza actually says that feeling that discomfort but doing it anyway is a sign you're actually changing.
Like breaking an old addiction. There's withdrawal.
A similar principle. He points out that many great figures who challenged norms faced resistance, but their persistence led to breakthroughs. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable to create something new.
And you mentioned the body resisting during meditation itself. The mind wandering, sleepiness, negative thoughts.
Yes, that's very common. As you sit quietly and try to change your internal state, the body, which has been conditioned to be the old mind, might start sending signals to get you back to the familiar.
Like what kind of signals?
Sudden itches, restlessness, remembering urgent emails, bursts of anxiety, drowsiness, or that inner voice saying, "This is stupid, it's not working."
That's the body trying to stay in control. Keep the old programs running.
Exactly. It's the subconscious resisting the conscious attempt to reprogram it. Dispenza says recognizing this, "Oh, that's just my body trying to remain the mind," is crucial. Don't react to it. Just gently bring your attention back.
And mastering these distractions in meditation translates to life outside meditation.
That's the goal. If you can stay present and guide your energy despite the body's protests when you're sitting quietly, you build the mental muscle to do it during the challenges of your day. You become less reactive, more present, more intentional. Mind and body start working together in a new way.
Core's that state of coherence we talked about, brainwaves in sync.
Right. Coherence signifies order, balance, efficient communication in the brain and body. Incoherence, like the high beta stress state, reflects imbalance, energy working against itself, which can eventually contribute to breakdown and disease.
So the ultimate aim is that state of pure consciousness. Thought detached from the known reality.
That seems to be the gateway he describes, becoming no body, no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time. Pure awareness. Because from that place of infinite potential, you can begin to create a new reality, signal new genes, and change your brain, your body, and ultimately your life.
Okay, so let's try to bring this all together for everyone listening. The big takeaway from this deep dive.
I think it's that you possess this incredible inherent power, the power to genuinely influence your own health, your well-being, your life, through your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions.
So consider that power you hold inside you. Realizing you can be your own placebo. I mean, that opens up a completely different way of looking at things, doesn't it?
A whole new realm of possibility, for sure.
And maybe, as you go about your day after listening to this, ask yourself, what beliefs about my health, my limitations, my inevitable truths, what if they aren't so inevitable?
Good question.
What new reality might you choose to start creating right now, just by changing your focus, your inner state?
It's definitely food for thought. And for anyone whose interest is really piqued, exploring Dr. Joe Dispenza's books, meditations, and workshops would obviously be the next step to dive deeper.
Yeah. It really does feel like we're touching on a new understanding, maybe a new scientific paradigm even, one that acknowledges our ability, our repeatable ability to change ourselves from the inside out.
The potential is certainly profound.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the power of the mind. Lots to think about.